welcome to another video lecture of solution chapter. So in the previous class, we have discussed about some of the factors affecting the solubility of solid and liquid. So let us recall what we have discussed. That is, the first factor is nature of the solvent and the solute. This we have discussed. And the next factor is there is temperature. So these are the two factors which affects the solubility of solid we have discussed, right? So, so in this video lecture, we will be discussing about the further topic of solution chapter. So straight away we'll begin the solubility of gases in liquids. So in the previous video lecture, we studied about the solubility of solids in liquids, right? So today we will discuss about the solubility of gases in liquids. So gases, you already know that are easily compressible, so they can easily dissolve in liquid to form a solution. So gases that are easily liquefiable, so those gases which are easily liquefiable are more easily soluble in solvent. So take for example carbon dioxide and oxygen. So in case of carbon dioxide gas and oxygen gas, so carbon dioxide is more easily liquefiable, so that's why it is more soluble in water. Okay, more soluble in water compared to oxygen. Okay, so the concentration of these gases in a solution is expressed in terms of adsorption coefficient, that is represented by alpha. Okay, or it is also represented as molarity, that is mole per liter, or sometimes we express in terms of mole fraction. Okay, so these are the concentration expression modes. So there are some factors which affects the solubility of gases, like how the solids solubility is affected by certain factors. Here also there are certain factors which affects the solubility of gas in a liquid. There are two main factors, that is pressure of the gas and temperature. Okay, pressure and temperature which affects the solubility of a gas. So now we'll understand the pressure, how it affects the solubility of a gas with a simple example. So in the slide over here, you can see container containing a liquid, and it has some gaseous molecules, gaseous molecules, which is present above the liquid phase, right? So what happens here is, so these gaseous molecules which are present above the liquid phase, and this container is attached with a piston. Okay, and here we have not applied any kind of pressure. So whatever the molecules which are present above the liquid phase, they are freely moving, and they possess the kinetic energy. And these gaseous molecules are also present in the liquid phase. The moment when you apply the pressure to the piston and push the piston downwards, it will reduce the space above the liquid surface. So due to which more number of gaseous molecules will try to come in contact with the surface of the liquid, and they will enter into the liquid phase. So the effect of pressure on the solubility of gas was quantitatively studied for the first time by William Henry in 1803, and he stated this as Henry's law. Okay, this law, Henry's law, is defined as at a constant temperature, the solubility of a gas in a liquid is directly proportional to the pressure of the gas. Okay, so what we understood here is as we increase the pressure, the solubility will increase. Solubility of a gas increases in a liquid. So this mathematically it is represented as the mass of a gas is directly proportional to the pressure of the gas, which is in equilibrium with the solution phase. That is, M is directly proportional to P. M is nothing but mass of the gas. Okay, P is nothing but the pressure of the gas, which is in equilibrium with the solvent. And if you remove the proportionality sign, we'll take a constant, that is K. So K is nothing but your proportionality constant. Okay, this is about the Henry's definition about the um, by taking pressure as a factor which affects the solubility of a gas. At the same time, John Dalton also concluded independently the solubility of a gas in a solvent or a liquid by taking the function of its partial pressure. Okay, so he says that the solubility of a gas is expressed in terms of mole fraction. In terms of mole fraction, by expressing the solubility of a gas in terms of mole fraction, the Henry's law is stated as the partial pressure of the gas, which is in the vapor phase, is proportional to the mole fraction of the gas in the solution. Okay, so if we express this in terms of mathematical form, the vapor pressure P is directly proportional to, that is, mole fraction X. Say for example, if you have a beaker which is containing two different gases dissolved in it, and its mole fraction is Xa and Xb. Okay, so whatever the pressure exerted, pressure is directly, or the mole fraction of the component 1 or the gas 1 is directly proportional to the pressure of the gas. Okay, this Xa is directly proportional to Pa. So if you remove the proportionality sign, you'll get a constant. That constant, here we have taken it as Henry's constant. Kh is a Henry's constant. So if you plot a graph of, if you plot a graph of pressure versus mole fraction, you'll get a straight line originating from the zero. So this is the graph which will show a straight line. Okay, Kh is a Henry's law constant or Henry's constant. So it is the most common definition which we can use. That is, the partial pressure of the gas in the vapor phase is proportional to the mole fraction of the gas in the solution phase. So this is about the Henry's law. Okay. Now let us understand the next factor, that is temperature. How does the temperature affects the solubility of any gas in a liquid? So basically it is nothing but when you dissolve a solute, solute is our gas, in any solvent, so it will undergo through an equilibrium process to form a solution, and it will give out the heat energy. So the dissolution of any gas in a solvent is an exothermic process. Exothermic process. Okay, the solubility of any gas, it is accompanied by the evolution of heat. So if you apply the Le Chatelier's principle to this process, the equilibrium is shifted in the backward direction. Okay, that is, solution will be converted back into solvent and gas. That is, if you increase the temperature, okay, if you increase the temperature, the dissolution process, the dissolution process will decrease. That is, dissolution of gas decreases. So that is the effect of temperature. According to Le Chatelier's principle, if you apply the Le Chatelier's principle for this equilibrium process, the process will go in a backward direction and the dissolution process will decrease as you increase the temperature. So these are the two factors. So one is pressure and temperature. Let us study some of the applications of Henry's law. So there are few applications. It is important. Henry's law applications are asked most of the time. So the first application is, it is used in the production of carbonated beverages. So it is used in the production of carbonated beverages or soft drinks. Soft drinks or champagnes and other carbonated beverages we use this Henry's law. It is here we use carbon dioxide, pressurized carbon dioxide to bubble inside the liquid. So here we use the Henry's law application. So it is also used in the deep sea diving or deep sea divers. So the deep sea divers, they carry the oxygen cylinders. Oxygen cylinders. So basically it is a mixture of three different gases, that is helium, neon, and then oxygen. The composition of helium is 11.7%, neon is, sorry, nitrogen gas 56.2%, and oxygen is 32.1%. So in the oxygen cylinder, it contains helium gas, nitrogen gas, and oxygen gas. To maintain the constant proportions, we use this Henry's law to fill the oxygen cylinders. Okay. The third application is the people who are living at high altitude. Those who are living at high altitude, they experience a lack of oxygen. They experience the lack of oxygen supply. Okay. So those who are climbing the mountains or those who are going to high altitudes, they carry these oxygen cylinders. Okay. They carry these oxygen cylinders. So the people who are locating or those who are found at this high altitude, they suffer from a disorder called as anoxia. They suffer from a disorder called as anoxia. This is due to the lack of oxygen supply. Due to the lack of oxygen supply, they feel weak. They feel weak and also poor thinking. Okay. So this disorder is called as anoxia. So that's why those who are going at high altitude, they carry this oxygen cylinders. So these are the three applications of this Henry's law. And also the working of our lungs. Working of lungs. Basically, it follows the Henry's law. So as the pressure increases in our lungs, the resolution of oxygen into the blood also increases. So these are the applications of Henry's law, and also it is important. Okay, we'll move further. Next, coming to the vapor pressure. So I think you have studied the vapor pressure in first PUC. So let us understand with a simple illustration by the diagrams which is displayed over here in the slide. Here I've taken a jar which is filled with a solution. Let us take a jar and fill some liquid solution and close this container with a lid. Now at a particular temperature, at initial state, what happens is the rate of evaporation is very high. That is, more number of molecules from the liquid phase try to escape into the vapor phase. That is very high at the initial state. As the time passes, at one particular intermediate time, as more number of molecules are present in the vapor phase, the rate of condensation will be high. Okay, once more number of molecules are present in the vapor phase, they try to comes back or reabsorb back into the liquid phase. This process we call it as condensation at intermediate time. So similarly, once the intermediate state is being passed, they reach an equilibrium state. Okay, where you can see equal number of molecules are present in the vapor phase also, and also they are present in the liquid phase also. Okay, that is, we can say the rate of evaporation has become equal to rate of condensation. This happens when the system has attained the equilibrium, the rate of evaporation becomes equal to rate of condensation. That is, as the number of molecules enter into the vapor phase, same number of molecules will comes back into the liquid phase. At this particular temperature, when a system has attained the equilibrium, the pressure exerted by the vapors, the pressure exerted by these vapors over the liquid phase at a particular temperature, that pressure we call it as vapor pressure. Vapor pressure. So what do we define this vapor pressure as? The pressure exerted by the vapors which are in equilibrium with the liquid at a particular temperature is called as vapor pressure. I hope you can understand with this example. It's very simple, and the vapor pressure definition is important. Okay, let's move on. So what are the factors which affects this vapor pressure? Okay, factors which affects the vapor pressure. So let us see the first factor, that is nature of the liquid. So nature of the liquid. Here, uh, there are sometimes we can see sometimes polar solvents. Okay, non-polar solvents. Right. Here, the intermolecular force plays an important role. Intermolecular force plays an important role. So, if the intermolecular force, if the intermolecular force is strong, between the molecules, then vapor pressure decreases. Okay. So what do you understand from this? That is, if, say for example, A is one molecule and B is another molecule. If the intermolecular force between these two molecules is very strong, they hold each other very strongly, and you cannot break these molecules apart. And since you cannot break these molecules which are in the liquid phase, and you cannot expect these to be present in the vapor phase, right? So since this is happening, that's why as the intermolecular force is stronger, then the vapor pressure also decreases. Second factor, that is temperature. So temperature is also one of the important factor which affects the vapor pressure. That is, increase in the temperature also increases the vapor pressure. Okay, so we have studied about the two factors, that is nature of the liquid and nature of the, that is temperature. So as the intermolecular force increases, vapor pressure also decreases. Similarly, as the temperature increases, vapor pressure increases. So these are the two factors which affects the vapor pressure. Okay, now we'll move on further. Now we'll come into the vapor pressure of liquid solution. Okay, it is third type of solution. So in case of liquid type of solution, the solute is also liquid and solvent is also liquid. Both are in the liquid phase. The condition here is to study the liquid solutions and the Raoult's law, both the components. So for example, solute and solvent both should be volatile in nature and they are completely miscible with each other. Completely miscible with each other. So if they um, follow these two criterias, the solute and the solvent, which are in liquid phase, then we can study about the vapor phase or vapor pressure and also the Raoult's law. So for the first time, French chemist F.M. Raoult in 1886, he studied about the vapor pressure of liquid solution and he stated a law called as Raoult's law. So let us understand this law with the example. I have taken an example of two volatile liquid, that is hexane and heptane. So here I have illustrated an example through a picture. I'm not going to take hexane and heptane. Instead, I'm taking generally a liquid A and liquid B as hexane and heptane. Okay. So in the first beaker, I'll mention this first beaker. This is the second beaker. I've taken liquid A and liquid B. So in both the cases, they are present in the pure form. Okay. They're present in the pure form. I have mentioned it as pure component. Okay. Just imagine it is a pure hexane and pure heptane. The partial, that is, the vapor pressure exerted by these pure components are taken as P naught A and vapor pressure exerted by the pure component B as P naught B. Now I'm going to mix the liquid A and liquid B into a container. So at a particular temperature, when I mix these two liquids, liquid A and liquid B, the mixture will now together exerts a total pressure, total pressure at a particular temperature. So the individual component of the mixture will exert its partial pressure. So the partial pressure of first component is represented as PA and the partial pressure of second component is taken as PB. Okay. So this is about the example. So with this example, now we have understood what is the total pressure exerted by the individual components of two completely miscible volatile components. Let's see the statement of this Raoult's law. So in a solution, the vapor pressure of a component at a given temperature is equal to the mole fraction of that component in the solution multiplied by the vapor pressure of that component in the pure state. So the definition goes all the way long. So when I take the component A and component B, let us understand with the example only. Component A, that is partial pressure of first component, is directly proportional to the mole fraction of first component. Similarly, partial pressure of second component is directly proportional to the mole fraction of second component. So if I remove the proportionality sign, it becomes PA is equal to XA into P naught. So similarly, PB is the partial pressure of second component is equal to xb into P naught. So together I'll take this as equation number 1. So this is the statement of Raoult's law. That is vapor pressure of a component at a given temperature. So for example, vapor pressure of first component at a given temperature is equal to the mole fraction of the first component into the vapor pressure of that component in the pure state. Okay. P naught A is nothing but the vapor pressure in pure state. Okay. So this is about the Raoult's law statements and the equation. Now, as you all know that in first PUC we have studied about the Dalton's law of partial pressure. Dalton's law of partial pressure, right? So what does this Dalton's law of partial pressure states? There is nothing but the total pressure exerted by a mixture of gases is is equal to sum of the individual partial pressures at a particular temperature, right? That is P total is equal to individual partial pressure, that is PA is the individual partial pressure of first component and PP is the partial pressure of second component. Okay, this is from the Dalton's law of partial pressure. So P total is equal to, so what I can write PA as XA into P naught A plus XB into P naught B, right? Okay, I'll just erase some of the things. You can pause the video and you can go through it. Okay, now continue. So here I will take XA plus XB is equal to 1. I'll consider this. So XA becomes 1 minus XB. Okay, so this I'm going to substitute into this equation. I'll take this equation as 2. So what it becomes, that is P total will be equal to, instead of XA what I'll substitute, that is 1 minus XB into P naught A plus XB into P naught. Okay, now you multiply P naught A minus P naught A into XB plus XB into P naught B. Now what is common here? It is XB is common. So I'll take P total, it will become P total is equal to P naught B. I've taken P naught B and this one minus P naught A bracket XB plus the remaining thing, that is P naught A. Okay, so this equation I got by substituting in the place of XA. Okay, so similarly if I substitute in the place of XB, okay, so what I'll get, the equation, that is P total is equal to P naught A minus P naught B into XA plus P naught B. So these are the two equations I got. I mentioned these two equations as equation number 3. So here the constant, that is P naught A and P naught B, are constants. So if you plot a graph of pressure versus mole fraction, so what you will get, you're going to get a straight line, because since P naught A and P naught B are constants, so it is a linear function, you'll get a straight line. So here in the graph, you can see in the right side, there is a graph. So it will represent, the y-axis represents the vapor pressure and the x-axis represents the mole fraction. Okay, so P naught A and P naught B are constant, that is vapor pressure of pure components. Now, at one particular point, if you take, say for example, if XA, mole fraction of first component, becomes 1, then equation number 3 becomes, that is total pressure P will be equal to P naught A. Okay. If XB, that is mole fraction of second component, becomes 1 unity, then the total pressure becomes P naught P. Okay. You can see over here in the graph, as XA becomes 1, in the vapor pressure in the y-axis, P naught A is going to be equal to the vapor pressure. Okay. So similarly, if y, that is xb, is equal to 1, then the vapor pressure of second component will be equal to the vapor pressure, that is total vapor pressure. Okay. So this is about the, when you plot the graph by taking the constants, that is P naught A and P naught B, will get a straight lines. Okay. Next. So this is about the composition of the liquid phase. Whatever we have studied here is about the composition of the liquid phase. Now we will talk about the composition of vapor phase. Composition of vapor phase. Okay. So whatever the vapors are there above the liquid, so there also you can see the components, that is liquid A will exert certain pressure and liquid B also exerts certain pressure. Now what is the composition in the vapor phase, that we have to study. So if I consider the mole fraction of component A as YA. Okay. So in the liquid phase, I have considered the mole fraction of component A as XA. Okay. Similarly, in the gaseous phase, I'm considering it as YA. So similarly, the mole fraction of component B as YB. Okay. So the equation will be YA is equal to PA divided by P total. So how did I get this? So if you take the mole fraction of components in the liquid phase, it is represented by the symbol X. Okay, XA is equal to what we can write, that is mole fraction of first component divided by mole fraction of first component and second component, or we can write mole fraction of first component divided by N total, right? So similarly, in case of vapor phase, I'm writing mole fraction of first component YA is equal to vapor pressure of first component divided by total vapor pressure, right? So I can write like this also, or I can write PA, that is vapor pressure of first component, is equal to vapor pressure of first component in the vapor phase into P total. Okay, this is the equation. Similarly, for the second component, yb is equal to pb divided by p total, or I can write pb is equal to yb into p total. Okay, if suppose more number of components are present in the liquid phase, so in the vapor phase also there will be many composition or many components exist in the vapor phase. So for ith component, what we can write is, uh, or we can write directly, that is pi partial pressure of ith component is equal to yi into p total. This is for the ith component. You have so many mixtures, then you can go for this equation. Okay, so I'll just quickly revise once again. So as you know that vapor pressure, we are discussing about the liquid solutions and studying the Raoult's law. Basically what happens, we taken the individual two pure components, okay, and the pressure exerted by these two pure components as P naught A and P naught B. When you mix both the components, it becomes a solution or a mixture. So here the individual component exerts pressure, certain pressure. That pressure we call it as partial pressure. Okay. So by looking at this, Raoult has given a law or a statement that is nothing but, uh, know that we have studied about this. That in a solution, the vapor pressure of a component at a given temperature is equal to the mole fraction of that component in the solution multiplied with vapor pressure of that component in the pure state. So whatever we have studied, I have exhibited in the form of mathematical way or equation form. Okay. So finally, we got uh, equation number 3, that is P total is equal to P naught B minus P naught A to XB plus P naught A. So here P naught A and P naught B are the vapor pressure of pure components. So that is not going to change during the process, because vapor pressure of pure components will remain constant. Only the variable thing is, that is mole fraction. Okay, that when you plot it in a graphical way, so by taking vapor pressure in the y-axis and mole fraction in the x-axis, you'll get a straight line. Okay, then further we went on studying the composition of any two volatile components in the vapor phase by taking Ya and Yb as mole fraction of individual components. And finally, we arrived at this equation, that is Pa is equal to Ya into P total. So similarly, for second component, Pb is equal to Yb into P total. For ith component, we have general equation like this. Okay. So these are the things which we studied in today's classes. So I'll stop here and I'll continue the next further topics in the next coming class. Okay. Thank you, students.